Welcome to the Elijah Rising podcast. Elijah Rising is an organization empowering women recovering from sexual exploitation. This episode is going to help you become more aware about the issue of sex trafficking and inspire you to take action.
Welcome back. Again, if you haven't already liked and subscribed to this podcast, go ahead and do that right now so that more people can access this important content. And today, I am joined on the podcast by Liesel Araoz, who is the director of the Elijah Rising Restoration Program. Welcome, Liesel.
Thank you, Adam.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast because this is actually your first time on the Elijah Rising podcast. It took us way too long to get you here, but you're here now. So today what we're going to talk about is the restoration program. We're going to talk about the work of trauma-informed restoration, but specifically those services, like what that is and what Elijah Rising offers, but also the challenges that are associated with that work. And so let's dive in.
Let's do it.
All right. So before we talk about those services and those challenges, since it is your first time on the podcast, why don't we get to know you a little bit better? Sure. Let's begin with your story. How did you get involved in anti-trafficking work, and what led you to, come on board with Elijah Rising? Yeah.
I actually love telling this story because I learned about kind of this issue of sex trafficking on a van tour with Elijah Rising.
Hey, look, that van tour, I tell you what, it has done a lot of things, a lot of good things.
It has. And so in 2012, so I started volunteering after that. You can't hear what you hear and kind of be exposed to the realities that people are living in, women and children in your neighborhood, like down the street where we pass every day and not be compelled to some form of action. So I started volunteering with Elijah Rising and in different capacities, prayer meetings and intervention, things like that. Took a break and started doing some other things. It's still in the anti-trafficking world, and overseas and domestic. And so fast forward a bit to just a couple years ago, and I was approached by an agency here in Houston to apply for a different leadership role in the anti-sex trafficking world. So it was a big deal to go from volunteer to
to like career path
to career. I mean, I was in school for a lot of what I'm doing now, which is beautiful. That's only the Lord can do that, And so I actually reached out to Micah and was like, "Hey, I'm interviewing for this role. I'm looking into it. Could you just pray?" And then just a couple of days later, the position that I was hired on for became available.
Which was originally not program. It was
not program.
The operations director position. Right. Yeah. So you
went into my
transitioned. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah. You know the story. So, stepping into this role now has been incredibly rewarding because, like I mentioned, it's as a survivor of, sexual violence, it's not exploitation in that sense, but I definitely have seen the Lord do miracles. And so it's a really beautiful thing to continue to learn and grow in this role as I learn kind of how to serve these unique and incredible women in a really unique way. So tell us a little bit more about what that looks like, that service to these unique and incredible women. What is a director of the Elijah Rising Restoration Program? What do you do? What's a day in the life of the director of the program look like? Maybe that's a loaded question. I don't know. A lot of days look very different.
Right.
But generally, I oversee the development and implementation of the program. So that goes into everything from trauma-informed policies and procedures to make sure that we're serving these women well in kind of the functions of daily life in the program, as well as down to, just the daily schedule. What does a restorative day look like, right? And so that looks like, making sure my team is well-trained, making sure we have survivor voices at the table informing kind of what we're doing and how we're doing it. It also goes into just kind of the administrative side of things. But when someone comes and we get a referral for a program, I'm the person who they talk to first most of the time. And I just really get to know her in terms of, what are not what is your story, but what are your goals? If you could move towards something, if you move toward restoration, what does that look like for you uniquely, right? And sometimes she doesn't know. Sometimes dreaming is hard when you've been kind of just experienced that blunt trauma on a daily basis.
Or had people who've intentionally taken your dreams away.
That's it.
Yeah.
So just, yes. So watching these women overcome that and just daily engage on their own arduous healing journey is just the privilege that I get to have every day. And that looks different all the time.
You've also got a team around you. You've got a staff that you put together. And so kind of what does that look like? What kind of roles are you kind of also managing within the structure of the program?
Sure. So we have our case manager who does a wonderful job resourcing the women in our program. Yeah. So that looks like connecting them with legal assistance, financial repair, because a lot of these women, their identities are stolen. Their traffickers will take their identity and open up as much as they can in their name, abusing them in that way. So really the roles on our team, I'll go through them, but they go through, each role is designed to empower women in each dimension of wellness is what we call it. So it's it's not new to the psychological world, but we focus on the whole woman, right? In every way, when a woman's been commercially sexually exploited, every element of her being has been traumatized, has been brutalized. So case management, we really focus on the practical things, legal, financial, medical, occupational, things like that. Yeah. And then we have our incredible residential manager who oversees kind of the environmental piece. So we believe that each person contributes to the environment. And so really making sure that our whole team is held accountable to press into their own healing, making sure that, she does just a great job of kind of challenging our team to do those things. And so she also upholds the schedule and really practical kind of operations of the household. Another role on our team is the resident mentor. So they're more of a kind of like a one-on-one coach. So they meet with the women one-on-one and walk with them through the curriculum. And that curriculum might be a financial. We use Financial Peace University from Dave Ramsey. We also, there's an array of resources that we pull from. So that's that role. And they also just do life together, it's very much community driven. So, some
of these roles, they actually live in the house.
That's
on a rotating basis, right? They're not like full-time residents,
right?
Like our full-time residents. But when you say do life, they are actually like eating meals together, and cooking meals together, and like going on walks together. Right?
So that's our resident advisors are kind of the foundation of our program. They help make things work and really, they do. They live on campus with these women. Right. We're in their home. When they're with us for 2 years, we're in their home. It comes with a responsibility to, honor their process. And as we're teaching them, we're also honoring them as individuals. And, you can't expect someone who's never been taught something to know something.
Sure.
Right. So we understand that our role is truly like mentors, in some ways. But Yeah. Does that answer your question?
There's also a psychologist around there somewhere.
Yeah, so we have
tell us about that.
Wonderful psychologist. She's been in this field for quite some time. Her name's Dr. Mary Reisinger. Yeah, we adore her.
We do.
Yeah.
If you're watching, we adore
sure
you.
do. Yeah. No, but she's been integral to the development of our program. Speaking to the processes and she's. Even before she was on staff with Elijah Rising, before that, she was just generously offering her time. Yeah. And, so she's also great support to our team, when we have questions or, so her expertise has been paramount. Our success.
It is really, it kind of takes us to that next level of excellence, I think, having absolutely. A clinical, I think a very well-renowned clinical psychologist on staff here. So you're kind of, it's kind of setting you up for the next question here about, who's on the staff? What do they do? So tell us a little bit more about the program itself. What does the program like who does it serve? Let's start there. Like who does this program serve? How are they being served? And just, I know there's like a million answers to this part, but like what sort of services does the Elijah Rising Restoration Program offer?
Yeah. So our mission first is always to serve and empower women who've obviously overcome commercial sexual exploitation. That's the field we're in. Yeah. We do that through a clinically based residential environment, right? So, and our hope is to do that through the compassion of Christ. Like that's really what drives us. Yeah. We serve women that are 18 to 40 years old, and we'll take older on a case-by-case basis. It just kind of depends. But our primary focus is empowering them with, practical tools. And so, again, the intent is to focus on the 8 dimensions of wellness, including leadership. So you asked, what are like the services we provide? Yeah. So we partner with some incredible agencies to resource them because we don't have to do everything because we have incredible partners who are doing it.
And we have the benefit of living in a city that's kind of awoken to this issue.
That's
and
it.
So, some of our listeners, are all over the place. And like, we really do have a wealth here in Houston, in the greater Houston area, of people who understand the issue and who will partner with us.
That's
right.
It.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. So one that we really love to partner with is the Joseph Project. They've done an incredible job. In a matter of days, they connected one of our residents with really the answer to her 18-month journey with the legal system. They stepped in and they just knocked it out so quickly for her. And it was a huge obstacle for her to get to that next level of her recovery. So it's just amazing. Yeah. But another facet would be, connecting them with whatever assistance that's available to them while they get on their feet, whether that be government assistance or, really resourcing them well financially in ways that we can through whether it's systematic or another thing is our social enterprise. We at a certain point of the program, if they need it, they go into the social enterprise to establish, credible work history, letters of recommendation, things like that, and acquire great job skills, different forms of etiquette that you don't know until you know. A lot of these women have been on the street since they were teenagers, and so the level of care and resources that they need vary drastically because some of these women are college graduates too, and
Which,
Liesel,
that's such an important note. And we've kind of said this on the podcast before, but I feel like it's, we need to say it again and again and again.
Absolutely.
Like every single woman, every single overcomer is different.
That's
like
it.
We can't just look at this issue or we can't just look at those who have been victimized by this issue as like there is no monolith, right? There is no like type. Every human being is unique. Yeah. And so that puts you in this role to where you have to create this program filled with services that can meet a myriad, untold amounts of, different unique traumas, life experiences. Some have college degrees, some don't. Some were trafficked as children, some experience it later. So yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
So you said something that will kind of simplify this answer a bit. So what we've done is we've designed the program by the stages of change model. Okay, it's a recovery model.
Tell us about that. Yeah.
In each phase, each of the five phases, there are some general goals that they have to accomplish. One would be, a lot of these women who come to us, they're dealing with PTSD, extreme PTSD, sometimes complex PTSD, which means that their trauma probably started in the developmental stages of their life, meaning early childhood or sometime in there. And so we have a heavy emphasis on just therapy and showing up for yourself. And so each of those phases is designed with goals, general goals, and some might check them off real fast and be like, I already got that down pat, move on, Some people might need something different. So with that, we're able to see along the way kind of assessing needs and assessing ways we can better support her in all those areas that I mentioned, right? So really there is a general template for the program, but every woman who comes through those needs are going to be covered based on these different assessments that are built in, both psychological assessments that are formal through Dr. Reisinger, as well as through case management or through some evaluations in the home as we're doing it, and a social aspect, because some things you don't know until you see someone, living their life, that maybe we can support her, and some more tools for, organization, different things like adulting is hard, especially when you're learning to adult is hard in general, on a good day for whatever. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I've heard Kathy, I think she said it on our podcast here. I'm sure she said it many other places, but Kathy McGibbon-Givens has said like caring for overcomers is both like the most complex thing and at the same time, like the most simple thing.
Yeah.
Like what do you
well
need?
Said.
What do you need to live today? You know what I mean? Like, food, clothing, shelter, right?
Yeah.
Family, maybe, some sort of like relationship, you know? And it sounds like you guys are taking all of that into consideration and providing that framework for anybody who might walk through the door.
Because it's a whole person.
Right.
We're intrinsically designed with needs that can be met in a healthy environment. And so our role is to create a healthy environment and cultivate a healthy environment where those needs can be identified and fulfilled according to what she wants too. Because in some ways, some women might not, everybody's priorities are different too.
Sure.
I guess is what I'm getting at. So.
Yeah. So it sounds like the resident, the client, the overcomer, has some say, like is participating in this journey and kind of, I don't know, tell me if I'm using the wrong language, but like kind of crafting her healing journey for herself, and y'all kind of just help build that framework to where that's successful. I mean, did I say that right? Or
yeah, kind of. So. Yes and no. So we have like just the hierarchy of needs. So you have like the what is it? So you have like food, safety, shelter, those kinds of things. And then you have, like if someone doesn't know they're safe, they're not going to heal.
Sure.
Right. So we focus on,
you got to meet that basic need.
Right. And so kind of on the back end, we can kind of know, through just education and being really well trained and mindful of the person in front of us to not only discern, but really truly go. It's Dr. Karen Purvis calls it scaffolding, right? Scaffolding needs, right?
Yeah,
so if you get the foundation down, then you can go a little bit higher, and then eventually you have the whole person kind of built up in a way that's holistic. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. Yeah, great. I think we're going to take a break in the podcast here, but when we come back on the other side, I'm going to ask kind of two major questions of Liesel. First is, why is any of this necessary? And then what are some of the biggest challenges that our team, but really like just generally in survivor, restorative care, what are some of those challenges? So we'll see you on the other side of the break. Take a second and think about how many subscription services you have. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify. If you're like me, you have more than you actually use. That money just disappears out of your bank account, or maybe you don't even use the product anymore. So why not donate that same amount of money to Elijah Rising and know that every dollar you spend directly serves those who are overcoming sex trafficking? We invite you to join The Rise. The Rise is a dedicated community of recurring donors who give strategically to fund the work of ending sex trafficking. Join our community of more than 200 members who have decided to rise up. $10 a month can provide services for women seeking to exit exploitation. $40 a month can provide job training and employment for an overcomer of trafficking. Donate online via credit card, debit, ACH, or Apple and Google Pay at elijahrising.org/rise. Hey, welcome back. Okay, Liesel, so why is restorative care, trauma-informed residential style restorative care, necessary in the work to end sex trafficking?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, statistics that I found through the Samaritan Women and NTSA say that 95% of women who've been trafficked were sexually abused as children. 87% deal with addiction. 70% grew up in fatherless homes. 48% have been formally diagnosed with some form of depression, anxiety, PTSD, or other mental illness. And so the reason restorative care is so important to ending this is because we have to address the whole person. Recidivism is huge because when you have, it's such a cyclical form of exploitation and trauma, because, traffickers are so intentional to form that dependency on them, whether it be through drugs or whatever form of coercion. It's
intentional though. Yeah.
Oh, it's so strategic. Yeah. Much tact and thought goes into it. Right. Yeah. But if we're not focusing on the whole person, one of our things we talk about all the time is generations, and so when it comes to generations, where it starts with one generation. So if we can start with ours, the women in our generation seeing healing and true restoration happen, it's one survivor. That's why I love how strong the survivor community is in Houston, because they are the voice of hope, not us. We don't know what it's like to be on the track, on the street. It's them.
Yeah,
and so every woman and her story, it's going to connect with another woman in a different way.
Sure.
So we need more homes. We need more women healing. Another issue, it's important, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword, because there aren't enough beds.
Right.
There isn't enough room for everybody. So say there's like this massive exodus from really any location, right? Say like one strip club just has a massive exodus that these women leave and they're like, I'm done. There's not a place for them, So it's important because it's necessary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just gonna perpetuate.
It is. And, we get that question a lot. I had this question just this past week. Somebody looked at me and said, okay, this is great what you guys are doing. So, is it enough? And I said, it's not, because we have bed space. We want to continue to grow. We want to continue to have more and more and more and more availability for overcomers exiting. But even that, even with our potential capacity, right, which we'll build to, it still would not be even a drop in the bucket of what we need in this space.
That's it. Yeah. And it's so unfortunate because even on our intervention teams, we see women who are wanting to leave, and in these crisis moments, we don't have a place. We have to buy them a hotel room, which is another form of not a good situation. Anyway,
much work to be done.
Yeah. So the road to recovery is long. I mentioned before all the statistics of women, what they've experienced before they were ever in the life. The road to recovery there is hard in itself.
Yeah.
For any of those forms of trauma. But you take someone who's been extremely traumatized on all the dimensions of their personhood.
Right.
And it takes a special kind of healing. You need a kind of a life pause to go away and do that. And we need people who understand, not the cliches, not the memes you see on Instagram, but people who are willing to get in and learn.
Right.
What is truth versus what's on whoever so-and-so's research,
Absolutely.
And you don't know unless you're talking to survivors. You don't know what is true unless you're actually out there. So, but we need survivors. We want these women to live and to know full life. So, and every life counts. Yeah, every life matters.
Right.
So, whether we have one woman or 84 women, it's the work that, and those programs out there who are doing it in small numbers like that is deep, meaning, those are deep, meaningful seeds. So
Absolutely.
So
why a house? why this question has kind of popped up in my head. Why do we do this in a single family residence? What is it about being in a home that's important to this work, as opposed to I don't know, some institutional type feeling, or some, 50, think hotel, or some, does that make sense? Making sense to you? Yeah.
Yeah. So, you and I probably both know that healing happens in relationships, and not in institutions have their place and their purpose.
Sure, right.
But
we all need hospitals.
We all need hospitals.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes people need a medical hospital to have that form of intervention and things like that. But that's not, these women need an environment where they're understood and heard for what their specific trauma is. And, it's a community model. There are places that have more institutional style settings, but we're just so community oriented, you know, and providing these women healing community with healthy individuals to help them through that process, help guide them through that process. You know, and a lot of these women wake up, and it could be, you know, a drop-in center or something like that. There's a model for that, but our model serves these women in a way that when they wake up and they're having a hard time sleeping because nightmares, there's someone there. Yeah. You know, there's someone there 24/7. To listen or not listen or cry with her or just be with her until, you know, she's back to where she realizes, hey, you know what? And maybe she's having a flashback, which she's kind of out of her body in that moment. She needs someone there to tell her, hey, it's okay. Hey, it's okay. You're okay right now. You're safe. Yeah. So the overnight care is really such a special time to be with them, because it's the time when they feel the most vulnerable, you know. And I don't say that in a sense of like, you know, they just need that, you know, in a time when they've woken up in terror, to be reminded, to have someone else there with you to say, hey, you're safe right now.
Yeah, you are safe.
Yeah, you're safe. You've chosen life, and you're living your life, and you're doing this. You're doing the hard thing to heal, and you don't have to be afraid anymore, you know. It's her. Like, she chooses to be there. So these women are choosing to wake up every day and do the arduous, hard work of healing. You know, there are people who don't realize their trauma, and they're traumatizing everybody else around them. But these women are choosing every day to wake up and heal. Yeah. That's amazing.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle, and it's amazing.
And it's an honor to participate in that choice.
Yes. I could just literally cry talking about it. Yeah. It's such a privilege.
So let's kind of shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
I think we've talked about all the good stuff. I want to talk about the hard stuff for a minute. So what are the biggest challenges to restorative care? And feel free to answer this question like just Elijah Rising specific, but also just, you know, we're not the only restorative care program in Houston, or, you know, certainly not in the nation and around the world. So from your kind of expert positioning, what are those biggest challenges that are faced?
Yeah. So in talking to some colleagues in the field, some shared obstacles we have, or really complications we have, is when, you know, the woman feels that her safety has been jeopardized, you know? So that's a big deal. It's a huge deal, because when your trust is broken, and you never really know what's going to do it, you know? It could just be she senses that you're not entirely genuine that day, and that's legit. That's a good reason not to trust somebody, you know? But that's kind of in the weeds a little bit. But another huge challenge that a lot of programs face is, you know, staffing. So getting the funds for appropriate staffing. Sure. So especially in a residential program, if you are a 24/7 care program, that means you have to pay people to be there 24/7.
And in our case, like, because, you know, of our capacity, like it's multiple people 24/7. It's not just like one person. We're paying multiple salaries to kind of live there.
Right.
You know?
And then you have people on call if there's an emergency or different things like that. So so that's a shared, I would say, a universal kind of struggle that we have as different program leaders. Another is, and I think we've done a good job of finding resources. So a lot of programs don't know what resources are out there. That's why I love, you know, agencies like NTSA or National Trafficking Sheltered Alliance. Does a wonderful job of connecting shelters to one another. So really resourcing different organizations with connections, you know, just a networking agency, you know, and that's also where we get a lot of our referrals for residents as well. So I could talk about them forever. I love them so much. But yeah, really not anything. There are going to be natural, you know, complications, or not complications. That's a strong word. Challenges. Right? Challenges when you're engaging with and partnering with someone on a healing journey. Yeah. You know, in any context, that's going to be difficult and challenging, because it requires a form of otherness. It's not about you. It's about the survivor, the person who's doing the hard work. Right. Yeah. And so, earning the trust in that place is very challenging,
Sure.
where it's like, we're committed to you, commit to yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to commit to us, commit to yourself that you want to do this work. So that's a huge challenge. But I would say a universal challenge that I've heard and seen, and I mean, it just is, this as well, is funding, because you can have this awesome, we have projections for the next, not projections, we have plans rather for the next, 3 to 4 years. And it's like, okay, Lord,
yeah,
this is going to be so great.
Yeah. Big dreams, big plans.
Big dreams, big plans on paper. And so,
That's right.
So,
funding is tough. And I think, I'm the development director, right? So like, that's the place my brain is every day here at Elijah Rising. And some of the difficulty is sometimes it's hard to convey to people, it is expensive. Like, this work is expensive. Mm-hmm. To like, think about how much money it costs you to live.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have a salary, and if you've got children, right? Mm-hmm. Multiple children, if you're running a household of 5, how much money does it cost you to operate that household? Right. And so sometimes we bump up against this challenge where it's like, wow, that seems so expensive. And the answer is, yeah, it is. But we are providing everything.
Yeah.
Like our residents go through this program at no cost.
No cost. Yes.
Whatsoever always. To them. Mm-hmm. Because we want no strings attached to their healing. Mm-hmm. Right. We want to create this environment where they can freely heal.
Yeah. We're not asking anything from you. Just show up.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it shifts that role and the responsibility onto the public at large to say, these people are worth it.
Yeah.
These individuals are worth providing all the space and time necessary to go on that healing journey, because guaranteed they're going to come out on the other end and be some of the most successful contributing members of society that we have ever seen.
Totally.
So invest in them now.
Yeah.
In this very expensive program.
Yeah.
That we promise we are stewarding the funds well. We promise we are.
It's all online.
Right.
You can see everything.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, the books are open, and so, sorry, I took over the podcast there for a minute, just, the development director making the pitch. But I appreciate your transparency in those challenges, because it's just not easy. It's not easy work. Right.
Yeah.
But rewarding work.
Rewarding. Absolutely.
So let's talk about those hopes and dreams then.
Yeah.
So what are some short and long-term hopes and dreams for maybe for the program, maybe for the women that are in the program?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously our primary objective is to empower and serve these women really well, and resource them.
That's the dream.
That's the dream.
Right.
Big picture and forever.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But, we also want to equip them for real life, and things like that. So just really right now we're only a year and a half old as a program. And so we're fine tuning our processes and really thinking big, creating a structure in itself that will sustain the growth that we have, that we're hoping for, so thinking ahead, believing that we're really partnering with God in this mission. It's not our big dream. I think it's, it is, but it's because I think he has a plan for this and for them, each woman who comes through our program, as well as her children, so whenever we're approaching this, it's always, like I mentioned before, it's always generations, because these women, whether they have children or they do not, this is generational work,
right.
So, and then after they leave our program, continued support and building out a great system there where we have, we already have great partners in the UAHT. We have different partners that will partner with them as well on the back end of that, the remaining years of their recovery.
Sure.
Long term, we have, our listeners probably know we have 80 acres. We have a little more than 80 acres, in a rural part of Houston. And our hope is to, develop that land out. Short term, we have a couple homes that need restoration. They're older, and so they just need to be finished out so that we have one main home right now where that community is kind of cultivated, and there are 4 more houses that need to be kind of restored so that as women are transitioning, they have a place to go, and maybe they're not ready to move out completely on their own, but they're ready to have a car and go drive themselves to work.
A bit more independence.
More independent. Yeah, for sure. And so, we need more space for that. We have that first landing place for them home as home, but we need those next homes built out. Yeah. Beyond that, the 80 acres, there's this beautiful master plan that was developed by a generous donor and our executive director, Micah. Yeah. And, the plans for that are like a little community, and really to give back. That the town that we're in has such a rich history, and we want to see economic development there. Yeah. We want to see this whole community restored. Yeah. God's entrusted that land to us, and so we believe that the vision goes beyond ourselves and what our agenda is. It's so much bigger than us, And so if we only are hyper focused on this, like we can be excellent at this, but we have to be open to what else. And so the development of that land is huge. Yeah, so we're hoping that will happen sooner than later.
Well, and it just models too, I think, for our residents, like we don't just serve ourselves, right? That's not a fulfilled life if you're just serving self. I mean, it's necessary, right? You need to do the work for yourself. I mean, you've said that a couple of times, but like it models the fact that we have to serve others. Like that's where the enrichment of life comes in, is where you're giving of yourself for the sake of another. That's great. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your voice. And so just, kind of last question I always ask our guests is there anything I've missed? Anything you think is important to share? Or, what are some ways that people, the listeners, the viewers, can participate in this work?
Yeah. I don't think you've missed anything, but I do. I think people have a hard time knowing where they fit. I think they have a hard time knowing where they fit in this realm. Like I want to do something, but I don't know where to start. You know, we have a great team that can coordinate with. If they run into volunteer. Your time, that is a valuable resource, your skills and what you have to offer, it has a place here. These women are looking for people who are genuine to partner with them. And so are we, we want genuine people who are compelled to seek justice and do justice on earth to partner with us. And another resource is financially partnering with us through, whatever set your heart on fire, there's really so many places to sow into
every dollar counts.
The work that we're doing. Yeah. Every dollar counts, and we count every dollar, we make every dollar work, and, so.
Thanks for being on the podcast today, Liesel.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode. If you were inspired by this content today, please share, rate, and leave a review. Also, please consider making a donation at elijahrising.org/donate. Your support helps us continue the vital mission to combat sex trafficking. Until next time.